we have an interesting book plan. But before we get into what exactly it's about, so the last few with creative people trying to get their apps together, especially a certain software engineering who's just got 5,000 things in my all the time, every day. Uh, so yeah, a little bit more about me. My name is Jay. I'm a software engineer currently working at DigiCert, which is a company that specializes in digital plus, and they're also the world's leading certificate complexity. So they issue certificates for various websites, organizations, and names. I started out in the chemist industry in 2018, and then later on I moved my career at Kazoo Consultancy, tried that out for a while, worked for a German company, and then found myself wanting a bit of a career change then, and we started working at Digital Trust, which so far I'm finding is a wonderful challenge, and I'm really enjoying it. If you all want to know something fun about me, I enjoy pressuring skeletons, and I leave it at that. First, AI is changing the way we work, the way we create, and let's be honest, it's changing the way we procrastinate thoughts. Right now, we're going to focus on the helpful aspects of AI. We're going to delve into how AI, specifically large language models, specifically how large language models can supercharge that learning. And so there's hyper-focused. I just need to get this done right now, Kimball sessions, into something that's actually interesting, educational, and productive. And crucially, we're also going to touch on some of the ethical aspects to do with the usage of LLMs, especially in the domain of software development. Because the great responsibility with great power also comes with a great responsibility. You not to unleash a somewhere, but for its focused production at 10 p.m. on Friday evening. But I want to take you back to time. Let's go back to the time before AI, before computers, even before the common use of electricity. It's talked about Thomas Edison and Mr. Albert Einstein. Thomas Edison was a rather intriguing employer. He didn't care much for fancy degrees, college educations. And instead, he decided that any new employees that were potential candidates, he would have had to go to a test. But this was not just any test. This was a text made up of about 20 or 30 weirdly specific questions, but it also covered things like general knowledge, random trivia, obscure facts. Albert Einstein took this test, and he failed one question. He couldn't report the speed of sound off the top of his head. When asked about it, he responded, "I cannot carry such information in my mind since it is readily available in books." He also said, "The value of college education is not the learning of many facts, but in the training of the mind to think." And he also saying, right, we are actually the Einsteins of our advantage. We are people, and it is our human ability that makes us indispensable. We are those who have the ability to think creatively, to think logically, to bring in the human element to what we do, right? So today, we're going to explore how to use AI not as a crutch, but as a catalyst. We're going to use it to amplify our thinking, to free ourselves from the mundane, and to focus on what we do best, building awesome and innovative software that helps us. My philosophy, when interacting with AI, is much like my philosophy to when I deal with incidents in general. Treat it with a lot of skepticism and just believe that everything that you read is either someone's very strong opinions, possibly you're lacking correct, and probably skewed in one direction. It will help. This is where words among an A and B book comes, specifically the phrase, take what you need and beat the rest. Not those for overcoming addictions. It's also a solid law. So a solid law principle, especially in the age of information urbanized. Find what you need and what resonates with you and beat the rest. So to this end, critical thinking is not just a nice to have, it's actually essential for the same age. We need to think critically, we need to break things up theory, and we need to form our own opinions of it. It can't be enough to just rely on what us people have to say about it. We have to challenge, we have to use AI as something that's intelligent us. Mm. Let's try one again, me. I'm meaning using AI or LLMs as the tools channel to assist us, not just distribute data sources. AI is a tool just like IDE. A purist might say you should be using an IDE. You should be coding using index editor and sheer power. And in that same vein, the others who will say you shouldn't be using an LLM's code, not ChatGPT. You should be thinking and just doing everything the hard way on your mind. But that me thinks this is a new debate, right? For me, I believe that we can use these as a tool to supplement what we got. I don't believe using AI makes you less of a programmer using it in a responsible way. I think it can actually make you more effective. This is the same way that using an IDE doesn't make you less of a programmer. Doesn't mean you can't write for it could. Using AI don't automatically give me complex also. So ultimately, my philosophy is mathematics. Embrace tools, but don't technically replace them for your brain. It's kind of some interesting things. So I've been testing a few different blind range models lately, and I found that Gemini works the best for me. And Max can scale that. You might say, well, why not ChatGPT? Me, Sam, started mid-level there. I spent most of my day working on an existing code base. I'm adding GPUs or effectively. How did I test these LLMs and come up with the one I actually see we should do with Geminis? Well, I came up with a prompt and I output through various LLMs, ChatGPT latest models, Google Gemini latest models, which is Splash 2.0. I use broad and I also even tried a Zorsal copy of DeepSeek. I think it'd be a week since it does skin leaks. So I've been a manual test, so to speak, and then I also there were some technical comparisons of uh, using documentation that was medical on. Let's take a look and technical comparison. So this is a chart of a website called llinsets.com, and I've linked it in the references. What we can see over here is, so on the x-axis, we have a timeline of dates of when these large models were released. And then on y-axis, we have the GPA score. Now, the GPA score is the Google, it's basically a dual grouped question and answer test consisting of 488 questions. Don't try and look for it up with your environment, that's the point. But as you can see on this graph, the line represents the highest performing models at that specific points in time based on this GPQA score. And we started on the 50 GPT-4 million quite high in early 2023, and then a few others took the top spots. And currently we're sitting with ChatGPT's O3 model, which have been sitting at top spot for quite a while. We can also see the other manufacturers of AI models that are not as highly performing and those on top there. But let's look specifically at the difference between ChatGPT and Google Gemini. Over here, we can see the models that I use for my testing. So if a certain user goes onto ChatGPT.com, they are presented with options to use ChatGPT's model or boards. And this is fine with day-to-day work, but we have let's use it before we download you to all the break at ChatGPT, which is pretty much bad. Remote Snap is also good for day-to-day usage. And for the most part, you can use for free as long as you're over 18 where you have a Google account that you earn an image. You can also explore, I won't say more features, but can start to extend access to Gemini 2.0 Flash for a fee of $4 and 30 random matters if you sign up to the Google Premium option. And we compare that to OpenAI's Mazes and Grace's model. This is, I would say, one for the standard user. It's more for PhD level research and for those who are very high up in academia and doing, things like cell sequencing, DNA analysis, very, very deep and technical topics like that. And it's also so affordable to the average user. To use this particular module, one would like to sign up for a ChatGPT Pro or Plus or Premium. I can never remember which one it is, which comes at cost of 3,600 rand a month as a today's exchange rate. This is what that deposit. That's more than my 1G card storage. If we take a deeper look into some of the mechanism causing metrics, we can see that over here in the script menu graph, we have some metrics along the x-axis and a percentage score on the y-axis. And the metrics that we're looking at here are called egress schema, which is specifically for understanding of video mounting. This metric was developed in 2023 by 3 UC Berkeley students. And we also have the GBGA, which is Google Proof of Question and Answer Sets. That's sort of the golden standard for analyzing the reasoning models of analyzing the reasoning capabilities and the LLMs. In the Omni Pro, there's a massive multi-fast language understanding centric, and that specifically shows a different kind of reasoning as well. And then U is the cycle of diversion and handling one stations. But as we can see over here, if we compare GPT 4.0, which is OpenAI's panel, to Gemini 2.5, which is represented by the balls of purple, and we can see that actually it's very complex. Gemini is not underperforming by any standard whatsoever. And this is one of the huge reasons I such advocacy using Gemini, because it's got a lot of features that ChatGPT currently stands if you compare the three bids. And I should add that I don't pay for a subscription for Gemini. And obviously I had the clips, the performance. There's also some really nice Gemini features also recently released. And when I say recently, I mean like this month. This Slab OTI is the Studio Campus, which is an interactive space that makes it easy to iterate through different versions of proto documentation you're browsing. And it's also very nasty into Google because they can say each attribution separately as Google Docs. Then they also have access to new mods, such as deep research and uh, support or flash searching. I can't tell you much to those chat in the photos I have later on. The last feature I swear I don't work for Google is that we have access to gems. Gems are always customized, they're not for your needs. So you can customize Creamy Gem and create your own bonus instructions and give it detailed goals and how you want the responses to sound and even step-by-step workflows. That is also something I haven't tested extensively. I was wrong. One more thing. But this really is useful because I use the information fungus on a daily basis. We can take a saved info. So I got this list here, right? Which says that which states specific information. So I have a mass. I tell it that our app creates an energy and jars, so I'm in our easier parts. Like give me random things to pass and have technical initiatives. Don't flat credits doesn't specifically ask for it. And my reason for this is that when grades generated by an LLM, most of the time, all users have to step through any budgeting. I was in tweet students. A new trend that pops up called 5 critics. Shapeweek was OpenAI co-founder Andre Cortasi and Figueria Fosia. It describes programming using LLM to generate working code by providing natural language descriptions rather than any RAS. Cortasi himself described this technique that he coined, if you will, as quite amusing and not too bad for a weekend throwaway project. So here's the saying, if I get a book for a common LLM, I'm going to stick through it, I'm going to have speed budgets, and I'm going to have to understand what it does. That 1 minute spent asking ChatGPT, generate your fruit, and indeed say 20 minutes of asking it yourself. But is that hour whole worth it of deep learning? It's really worth that. I also found that after the issue in some code that Gemini has generated, I would generally feed it back into the LLM to be like, well, fix stuff. And it'll fix the problem, but it won't be the solution. It might actually introduce another bug. It might not even solve the issue at all. So I sort of end up in this cycle of debugging things that maybe weren't the good in the first place. I would need to run into these issues. Also, being able to look at code that's an LLM is generated for you and instantly being able to see, or this is not an ideal approach, this is not very efficient, this could express security risks. This been something like complex technical experience at. We can look at a real world example. So, here's an example where a junior developer could get from a LLM such as Gemini, where they have converted in a string, dates of formats, your say, into a local index, to Java, and a local JS is a class that represents any time zones or time values. So if we look at this piece of code, we can immediately see that they're doing manual splits and artist distress, which was not on a reason to do. We're also doing manual parsing of the integer, and there's a lack of error handling. What happens if an incorrect C format of dates is spotted? But with this one, however, a BEI methods or that there are some improvements that could be made to start. You could use local data parse, such as the Java industry standard way to parse data structures you could create some error handling to make sure that, if you have in invalid is the format, there you can log an error or throw a custom exception. And also using data formatter in this case makes the code more readable, and you easily know what format the page means. So these are small improvements to the code that you might not immediately see, but that's the game where the human element comes in. Yeah. But despite all these terrible things about the language models, uh, they really do have benefits. So it's really good at generating code such as this, where we have a list of variables. Maybe it's stories data, and we want to convert it into a Java formatted variable, right? Uh, I did this myself. It took me 20 minutes, and then I ran it through Gemini, and it was done in under 6 copy paste. Nothing else, right? Not too much. So what about optics for deep learning? Remember, deep understanding of your fixes. It might take a little longer upfront, but it will save you from mediating down the road. So what does that mean? Eva said, well, firstly, you need to understand the business context. You need to understand the overarching picture of what you're doing, what the customer needs, what the goals are, what the project plans. You need to interrogate your LLM masters. Yes, it's something that doesn't seem to make sense. Question it. Ask it back. Why would you say that? If you don't agree with something, cross-reference it yourself. Go on to Stack Overflow or start a discussion if you can. Also, seek user collaborates. I've often been ready for information when I've asked Gemini something, and someone can not. So, studies will show that best way to learn, just learn, is to back connection up. Also, you can use outlets bracel. So, something I like to is come up with a solution for a particular problem that might solve, and then ask the element for what your solution. And if I didn't need reselections, it's fun. And I find looking using new perspectives, and it allows me to take it slightly differently as well. I would say overall that using an LLM code, when it comes to using an LLM code, it's really good for minimum viable product, proof of concepts, boilerplate code, front-end prototypes even. It's not already ideal for production-grade systems, deep domain-specific logic, maintaining long-term code quality, things like that. This is a really interesting podcast that Lex Friedman had, where Papa Courses, also known as the Pliny, is programmer at TouchStreamer. And at one point they were discussing that famous phrase, word smart and a harder. It sounds like a great case in buts. Not a code as he Mama Bolsa. He asked, what is the definition of smartness? There's a solid assumption that things should be easy, and that you should say the shortcuts whoever you can. And our end seems to be the perfect embodiment of that. And LLM was the ultimate shortcut. You put a prompt, you put a question, a prompt input, and you instantly get out what you need or what you can get here. But here's the thing. Some things we have to learn makes it hard. You remember ever struggling through a problem for minutes, maybe hours, and then by the end of it, you retain what you don't miss it because you spend so much time engaging with material, trying to understand it. And I do believe that if you don't really get that feeling that's about supplement, I'm measure engaging with what exhibit is. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? How is the sensing access this information since our learning scale? And what strategies do we need to set into place to make sure that we're not just skimming the surface, but that we're also free understanding the theory? So I want to touch on some of the ethical issues surrounding the use of LLM and not any software development workflow. This isn't about scaremongering, it's about using software responsibly. So I'm not going to bore you with a long list of this is this is what you should do, this is what you should do. Instead, I'm going to ask questions. I'll love to see if anyone can take anything away from my presentation today. I'd love for you all to start thinking about these sorts of sections. If any of you viewers the echo chamber effects, all it was a track on vast amounts of data from the insect, which have amplified seeds that can enter its seeds. Array reliance and LLMs can lead to the other potential situation of these live seeds. And especially in coding as well, if we're constantly getting suboptimal code from an LLM, then it's easy to start to think that that's nonsense. Well, what do we do about that? Then there's the equation of consistency. When an LLM generates a piece of code that introduces a bubble, or even raise a scarcity on a Minsky, reach your possible flags. Is it the LLM potato flash? Is it AI, Google, the company that deployed it, the developer, the users? Finally, there's questions around its literal property. Who owns code that an LLM generates? And what about renderings like current counsel? Because there is potential for copyright issues to arise if LLMs are trained on copyright code automation. And then they generate similar codes. That's a mere real issue. It's really for big companies. So I was thinking about this. And perhaps the best solutions now is that developers be LLM generated code as a starting point. So you get your code and then you work through it to understand it, you modify it, you refactor it, you express into your code base. It's not just about renaming variables, it's about actually developing inefficiencies of code that fits into your code base. And if you can do this very effectively, you can ask language to reasonable to see like you've established your authorship. Because you can explain code what it does, where it came from, and why it was, which is the way it works. So these are really big questions with no easy answers, but the thing is it's really important for us to start thinking about these things now before AI becomes even bigger than it already is, and we find ourselves 20 years down because I asking the same question was thought was not answered. The beauty of software development is secret today. We have a wall of chasing us. That was a lot, but I made that. And tries like us. You will be someone who ships code quickly, someone who sacrifices thinking power for quick results because there's technology out there that provides these answers. Or just be a quality what you do and forge a career in software development based on a lifetime of mastery and enjoyment. Using an LLM is only a stepping stone into writing good code. If AI is your you better know how to fly. Okay, I'll put some interesting reading over here. We'll quite cost horror trains.